Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. Joining me on the panel today, we've got Brian, who's kind of stepped away for the moment because something came up at his house, a consuming raging fire. And we've got Stephanie A. Smith, and she's got some commentary that I'm sure she's got whatever it is on her mind, and she'll have something to say about that. How is everybody doing? I mean, I'm laughing at what I'm reading on social media. And it's funny because, part of my show prep is watching shows like Get Up. And I thought that was really disgusting. I don't want to see a bunch of guys with erections talking sports. I thought the name of that whole show is like, where did that get its name? It sounds like a Viagra commercial. Welcome to Get Up. I'm your host. But what we end up with is
And amazingly enough, they don't even use the AC/DC song as their intro.
Yeah, I mean, and now we end up with, ESPN's flagship First Take. And so I watch that program and I see what people are talking about, and it's absolutely crazy. It's the end of football season when there were two things that were being discussed that I was like, you've got to be kidding me. One, of course, has to do with Cleveland. Everybody's talking about, well, maybe the Browns should trade for Deshaun Watson and get rid of Baker Mayfield. We could really trade up. That was the first thing. And, it's interesting because the younger generation of people who are on social media who say this stuff are really shallow, and they're raised at a time where marquee names in sports are all the rage. So what you wind up with is the big names, like what they were talking about. I'll give you an example. It's like, who's the MVP so far in the National Basketball Association? And Max Kellerman saying it's got to be Joel Hans Embiid. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, well, I mean, what is he going to be, the next James Harden, the guy that, or the next Giannis, the guy who gets to be the league MVP but doesn't do dick squat in the postseason and doesn't come through and disappears when it counts the most? And how is that being an MVP? But it's all about the name, one name, Giannis, and you know who it is, it's like LeBron, and Tarantula, you got to have these slick little nicknames. You got to be the one name guy. It's all marquee stuff. And that's what people buy into. So when you have a Deshaun Watson, who without a doubt is statistically career-wise superior to Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to tell you otherwise. But it's like, why would somebody think that bringing in Deshaun Watson would just like automatically propel the Cleveland Browns to the next level? And the answer is because they're the same people who believe that OBJ would do the same thing. And we're disproven when OBJ didn't play and the team got better without him playing. Now, people say, so you think, Mr. Moohead, we're better without him? And it's like, no. If he played as the rest of the team played and accepted his role with the team as being a field stretcher, I'd love him. He would be perfect. But if he's going to sit and complain on the sidelines about not getting the ball often enough, I'm not so thrilled with it. But be that as it may, OBJ, he's won a Super Bowl. He's the king of the one-handed catch. He's been seen in more highlights than any wide receiver in the last however many years, and he has a big name. He also has big mouth. So he's really perfect for today's sports talk radio because he always has something to say that is somewhere out there, and he's talented, and he's always on the verge of being in trouble. And whether it's how he contributes to his college, whether he gets into a spat with somebody when he's viewing a game from his alma mater, or whether it's something that he does on the sidelines when he's upset that he isn't seeing the ball or that he's wide open, or waving his arms on the field to show that he's wide open, whatever it is. These are the kinds of athletes that the people on social media treasure, the names, the marquee guys. Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, and he is not on the trading block, according to the Houston Texans.
And not to be confused with the Marquis Desaad. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah, Casseri, the guy who took over as general manager, said, I took the job under the assumption that Deshaun Watson was the quarterback here. Deshaun Watson wants to be traded because he didn't like the way Casseri was hired, because it was not transparent. And it didn't give people who are more qualified or anyone else even a chance to get into that position. And he's tired of losing. So he's doing what Joe Thomas didn't do. Now, let me say this. Joe Thomas stayed and the team never won. Okay? I mean, you could be loyal, and that's all fine and dandy. And Joe Thomas was as loyal a guy and as fine a left tackle as you'll find in professional football. And he stayed with his team. And was he rewarded for it? No, not at all. They just kept making stupid ass draft picks and surrounded him with bozos. And, you know, he would get, everyone knew how good he was. He'd be on the, you know, he'd be an all-pro every single year, but he wouldn't win anything. So Deshaun Watson is looking at this and says, I'm 5, 6 or whatever years in, and this is going nowhere. In fact, it's going in the wrong direction. I want an opportunity to play meaningful games. So now people are on the internet saying, well, you know, I'd rather have Baker Mayfield than a quitter, and Deshaun Watson is a quitter. And then the other people will say, you know, you make it sound like it's about loyalty, but it's not really about loyalty. You could see how loyal Baker would be if he got more money from another team, if it was such a situation that he'd be off like a shot to get them, you know, on and on and on it goes. Look, it is a business, all right? Football is a business. But to be talking about stupid things like this make no sense to me. The fact of the matter is that the season after Baker Mayfield leads you to an 11-5 record, and you're in the playoffs for the first time since 2002, and the first time you got into the second round in 27 years. And all you have to talk about is this. It just proves that it's the end of football season.
Behind the mighty play of Vinny Testicle Verdi.
Yeah, and get this. It's too early to talk about draft picks. So the draft picks aren't even out yet. So this is what we get as a substitution. And so people can argue online about the merits of Deshaun Watson versus Baker Mayfield. What I will remind those people who are getting into this ridiculous argument is you'll never know whether Deshaun Watson would raise Cleveland's level, but I could tell you this, to acquire him, you would have to disassemble many pieces of what you already built in the year that Stefanski came here. He's just not going to walk out. And
in addition to forfeiting many years of draft picks.
That's exactly right. And that's partially what I was referring to. You got to give up good players and draft picks to get this guy. And I don't see how that moves the organization forward. And it would just be another one of these situations where, you know, we're switching, you know, we're literally switching canoes in the middle of a stream. I mean, it doesn't even make any sense.
Well, and I was on the let's draft Deshaun Watson bandwagon when he was coming out of Clemson. I thought he was clearly the best quarterback in that draft.
He's got great arm talent. He's got great accuracy. He's mobile, but not in a Lamar Jackson way, more in a McNair kind of way. And, but, you know, very accurate thrower, and has played for a really crappy team with a lousy offensive line and still done well. So.
Well, let me just tell you something. Now, I don't know much about sports, but I do have an opinion. And if somebody claps at me, then I definitely clap back. And let me tell you something. This has nothing to do with me. That Baker Mayfield, he played his ass off this season. They're going to even talk that way. It just makes no sense. That's idiotic.
Stephanie A. Smith joining us on the program
Oh,
today.
fuck.
Yeah, I mean, and Stephanie's got.
I don't know if I'm going to make it through the goddamn show if she keeps that up.
Well, I mean, she pretty well, I don't know.
And as far as Rick goes, would you believe?
So now that was the first thing that they were talking about, and I'm like shaking my head. Then there was this, Dog Pound Daily, all right, which is a Browns fan site, with the headline, "It's time for the Cleveland Browns to think about Deshaun Watson." That's their headline. Yet at the same time, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. Here's another headline from today. They've pulled it off. Can you believe it?
Of course they did.
They pulled the damn thing off. They said the ridiculous trade rumors of Baker Mayfield for Deshaun Watson. So they're playing it from both sides. All right. And this is, again, a bunch of, Ritalin children who have nothing better to talk about because the season's over. Then we get Tony Romo. And I know that Stephanie A. Smith is going to have something to say about this, but I will give you the bare bones of this. According to Tony Romo, if Patrick Mahomes can't catch Tom Brady and win the game, he'll never catch him career-wise. So in this one game, Patrick Mahomes, if his team loses, that he'll never catch Tom Brady. And what I want to know is, how in the hell a guy who's only played 3 years versus a guy who's played 23 years, how in the hell are you going to extrapolate whether or not Mahomes is going to catch him? I mean, it's the most. Yes, Stephanie.
Let me just tell you something. Now that football season's over, people are going to be talking about ridiculous things. And let me tell you what's ridiculous is to compare somebody that's only played for 3 seasons to somebody who's had a whole career in football. That's just ridiculous. I don't understand that.
I don't understand it either, Stephanie. And, I look at Patrick Mahomes and say, well, he could have a great game and the team could lose. He could hand the ball off and his running backs could fumble 3 times. He could play a clean game and receivers could drop wide open passes. His defense could just totally fall apart and give up 48 points. And that would have no bearing on Patrick Mahomes. But you see, we got to get the headline. And Tony Romo is going to debilitate this guy's career for losing this one game. And here, it's like he's already won a Super Bowl. That's not enough. Well, Tom Brady's got 7 Super Bowls. And it's like, yeah, he played for a stacked organization, and Patrick Mahomes is in the beginning of his career. And how do you know the Chiefs are going to remain a juggernaut like the Patriots did? Again, this is the nonsense that we end up with when we're hyping something. And it's all because all we have to talk about are marquee names. There's Mahomes and there's Brady, but they have other guys on the team. And invariably, it's the Timmy Smiths of the Redskins. It's these guys who will make the difference. It's people who will make plays that Willie Brown, for the Raiders. It's the out of the blue play by somebody you.
Yeah, definitely not the San Francisco mayor.
Oh God, Rick is playing right into this. Stephanie, are you a moderator officially?
Well, let me just tell you something. I'm just somebody with some opinions, and I express them very strongly. So anytime I have an opinion on something, I will give it to you. Now, if you have some questions for me, you go ahead and ask them right there in that chat room.
All right, well, there you go, Sheriff. If you have any questions for Stephanie A. Smith, she has an opinion, God only knows. But you see, marquee names don't mean shit to me. And you know how much I respect LeBron James for what he did coming back to Cleveland, winning a championship and all that. And it's great having a superstar player play in your city. There's no question that it doesn't happen very often in mid-sized markets. So you savor it when it happens. But it's more likely that what you're going to be watching is more like the Cleveland Browns from this last year, which are an overachieving group of guys who figured out a system that a head coach brought in and started executing it better. That's what it feels like to me. And it's one of the reasons that I don't even want to talk about the Super Bowl. I really don't care. I hope the best team wins. I don't get into this GOAT conversation, this legacy conversation that he's never going to be as good as conversation any more than I get into the Jordan and LeBron conversation. All of this nonsense is just masturbatory nonsense utilizing iconic names in sports. That's all that is. I want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers, under the radar, are the most fun game in town right now. And for the same reason the Browns were so fun during the season, is it's not that, they're the most exciting, offense or defense. The Browns were good because the guys who were doing the work were guys who were like underappreciated. Guys like Higgins, who were relegated to the bench earlier, Njoku, who actually started blocking, your guys on the front line, a draft choice, Jedrick Wills, that turned out good for the Browns, a move off the free agency that worked, Conklin, who played hurt most of the season, but did a fantastic job. Of course, you have, Shredder, who's a tough guy, a warrior, and Batonio. But these are not people who are household names. If you saw them walking down the street, you probably wouldn't recognize them. Donovan Peoples-Jones, and a whole collection of Cleveland Browns players. And, and guys stepping in who'd never played in football games before, and it was fun to watch. The Cleveland Cavaliers, for all the marquee nature of the NBA, is 9-9, and nobody saw that coming. They were projected to be one of the 3 worst teams in the NBA. Now, they might still run into all kinds of trouble, but the season is almost 1/3 over. What are they, only playing 62 or 64 games this year? And what I'm seeing with this team is, hey, they have a scheme, a system. The coach is making the players accountable to play defense. And they're stepping up the tempo. They're stealing the ball. They got active hands. They got active feet. They get up and down the floor. And they're sharing the basketball. And I see what Amsterdam is putting up. And I don't know that Drummond could be traded. You're not going to get shit for him. And but quite honestly, he doesn't figure into the future of the Cavaliers. And the reason is he's still playing for himself. And if you watch the games, you'll see his numbers are great. Great rebounding numbers. He'll put points up, but he takes at least 5 or 6 shots that have no chance of going in when he could have easily passed out to somebody for a wide open look. He's not a great fit anywhere. He hasn't been, and he never will be. He will be a good fit, I suppose, to a team that's already loaded, who will be able to utilize him in a way that maybe he'll learn his place and not force balls up. Plus, he's a horrific free throw shooter. And the problem with the Cavaliers is that they're only shooting 67% from the line as a team, which is too low. But take a look at what the team has done since Kyrie Irving left, another marquee name. You stop and you think and you say, Colin Sexton out of Alabama. That could have turned out any number of bad ways, man. And there were people critical of the Cavaliers selecting him. He was too short. He didn't shoot well enough. I don't know why he went number 5, yada, yada, yada. Look at him now. Guy's averaging like 27 points a game, 50% from the floor, and like 47% from 3. And he's actually gotten better at making assists. He actually tries on defense, and he makes big shots. Then you got Darius Garland. It's like Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt. That's the one. And last year, he wasn't in shape. He wasn't ready to go. This year, he transformed his body. And look at what he's doing. He's shooting 41.6% from 3 and 50% from the floor. That 41.6% from 3-point range, if he continued to hit at that level from 3, would be higher than any year that LeBron James was from behind the arc. Just not comparing the players, stating statistical facts. Then, so you got this really good young back.
Well, I wouldn't say he's a Mark Price, but
no, he's not a shooter like that. But I'll tell you one thing: he's once he gets it together, he can get through and by anybody. He's got smooth moves, and he's got a hesitation move that will not quit. He gets around people. He needs to learn how to finish better at the rim, which is much harder in the NBA, and he needs to figure out, how to pass off when he gets double teamed down low or if he draws the big man over. And he's just got to become a little bit more solid that way. But then you start looking at the other positions. I mean, Kevin Love hasn't even played, and Kevin Love is just beginning to get back on the floor after the calf problems that he's had muscularly. But he is the most experienced, seasoned scorer and rebounder that the team has. And he hasn't played a lick. A lot of the players have been hurt during the course of the season. I'm not real high on Cedi Osman. He is energetic, but he's only shooting 39.6% from the floor. That's not from 3, folks. That's overall. It's not good enough. And, and he plays a bit out of control. But coming off the bench, he can give you some energy. Then you've made this draft pick of Okoro out of Auburn, and it's like, we haven't seen it all yet, and he's only shooting 40% from the floor, and that was the weakness coming in, but he works hard on defense, and he's explosively fast, and he's about winning, and he is going to work on his game, and I think Okoro will become a guy who is a very solid bench 6-man kind of guy who could come in and literally play some lockdown defense on people his own size. Then this swap out of nowhere. I mean, it's a stroke of genius. Taurean Prince, who isn't a great player, but was far better with the Hawks than he was the year he played for the Nets, is playing like he did for the Hawks. And he's shooting over 40% from 3-point land and is playing some valuable minutes for the team. But the real thing is Jarrett Allen. And this is a 22-year-old, 6'11" guy with a massive wingspan. We basically got our Clint Capella. We got our guy who is a rim protector, and his 15-foot shot is way better than Drummond's. He has some shooting range. His feet are quicker because he's younger. He gets to the rim, and he's got a nice little hook shot or a driving ball off of the backboard. He's a high percentage shooter, so he doesn't take those wild, crazy shots that Drummond takes, but he's a rim protector. He's a guy who plays defense, and that's his calling card, and that'll never change. It's like having a leaping 6'11", more athletic Anderson Varejao. It's like, give me that all day long. You're never going to have a marquee player playing in Cleveland, but you've got all these pieces. Now you've got Dylan Windler, and he looks like once we figure out how to drive and kick in this offense, he can bury three-point shots a lot better than Jetty Osman can. And he's got more height to boot. And he's not the most athletic guy, but he's another guy off the bench who can stretch the floor. Think Kyle Korver, but a little taller. Chris Mullen, a little taller, but a guy who's a left-handed shooter who can stretch the floor for you from three. I look at this team and I say, wow. I mean, even a guy like Damian Dotson, who is like a guy who can come off and score points off the bench. He's a guy who's not afraid to put the ball up and shoot. And you need, if you're a defensive-oriented group, it never hurts to have a guy who can come off and spark the team offensively. Why aren't the Cavs being talked about more? And the answer is, well, nationally, because they have no marquee player. But locally, what's the excuse for Cleveland.com and the local Cleveland, Northeast Ohio assemblage to not be talking about the team very much? And the answer is, well, because, they're not going to win the Super Bowl. It's like the Browns aren't going to win the Super Bowl unless we get Deshaun Watson. And it's like one step at a time, man. One step at a time. The Cleveland Cavaliers have a chance to make the playoffs this year. May not be a great chance. I thought they were going to be etched in for another, if it were an 82-game season, a 27-win season. But they're doing better than that. And the thing that's really interesting about it is they're taking people to task. They played one horrifically lousy game against the Celtics. I mean, horrible. And they bounced back. They played the Lakers tough, and it took 21 fourth-quarter points by LeBron James to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And he had to find a reason, some assistant coach or whatever, getting excited when he missed the shot at the end of the third quarter. And he used that as fuel to do what we know LeBron can still do at 36 years of age. But, the Lakers, after they were done with the Cavaliers, have lost 2 games in a row, one of them to the Pistons team that we pretty easily handled from start to finish. It wore them down. The Cavaliers are young. They're energetic. They can come out and get up and down the floor, and they can be a pain in the ass defensively. They're playing teams competitively. There aren't all of these 20, 30-point blowouts that we've seen in past years with the organization. And the players seem to understand what their role is and what they're supposed to be doing. It's just a shame that the marquee players are the ones who are rewarded, and the guys who are really working in the trenches, guys like Colin Sexton, who since he's been in the league in his 2 years has honed his craft so that he's shooting one-legged fadeaways now. He's got that floater down. He's created shots for himself and separation for himself to take advantage of his speed and his physical strength and negating that 6'1" height issue. He gets his shot off and he makes a good percentage of them. And Garland has nowhere to go but up. Darius Garland is so much better than the whole Ball family put together. But you see, it's not this marquee, big draft, big market kind of thing. Not playing in Los Angeles, not playing in New York. And then you have the marquee team like the Nets. And I don't want to diss the Nets because, they've got a troika. They've got 3 guys who are inordinately talented scorers. But if you take a look at where we're at right now in the the Cleveland Cavaliers are 6th overall, tied with the Atlanta Hawks. Cavaliers play the Knicks at 7:30 in New York. We laid an egg the last time we played against the Knicks. We haven't played well against the Knicks this year. The Nets are 12-8. And the Nets don't play a lick of defense. And the fourth quarter comes around, and they're trying to figure out, well, who's going to get the shot up? Who's going to hoist? Is it Harden? Is it Kyrie? Or is it Durant? And I see no evidence that their head coach has any clue to rein these people in, nor does he have the ability to do that. Because they're just an assemblage of guys who are around these incredible 3 offensive machines that don't play a hell of a lot of defense. When all's said and done, the Nets will be there because the league wants them there, A, and B, because they just have so much damn talent. The Pacers are at 11-7. The Bucks are at 11-6. And then the 76ers are 13-6. The 76ers beat the Lakers when the Lakers on a end of a back-to-back. And I think they said they had played 7 games, and it was like over an 11-day period, and they were exhausted. And now they're saying, oh, well, Embiid is now more valuable than LeBron. So they can talk about their marquee players all they want. But right now, at 9-9, the Knicks are 8-11. Orlando's 8-11. The Bulls are 7-10. The Raptors are 7-11. There's that big soft middle. And the Cavaliers got to get through the game tonight. We've got 3 games in 4 nights, and we're going back to Cleveland for a week-long homestand. And I would urge people to take the team a little more seriously and maybe sit down and watch. And fuck the football. Right now, it's done. And what the Browns are going to do and what they're going to draft, we have plenty of time to talk about. But the Browns are not going to trade Baker Mayfield. And it's not because I have this innate loyalty to Baker Mayfield or I think that Baker Mayfield is looking out for my best interest. The fact is, it's what's best for the team to continue the ball rolling forward instead of to make constant, ridiculous Jimmy Haslam knee-jerk reactions. And just because you forgot your Ritalin and you're on social media doesn't mean you need to be confused. Just listen to what I'm saying and follow me like McCarthy follows Trump.
Well, I just have to say I have an observation, and that is that you talk a lot. You act like this is your show.
It is my show.
Also, I just want to say I like the Cavs. Okay, I like them. I like what they're doing out there. They need to keep up that good work.
That's all you have to say about the Cavs, or is that just a generic thing to say because you don't know anything about the Cavs, Stephanie?
It's because I have nothing to say about the Cavs other than I like them, and I don't know anything about the Cavs other than I just like to look at them just running up and down the court, just like it. But if I may take it off topic just for a little while, somebody asked me in the chat room just a few minutes ago about some barbecue spare ribs. Now, I don't know if that was a racial comment, but just in case that was a serious question, you got to have fried chicken and barbecue, which are fried chicken and watermelon, which are barbecue spare ribs. I mean, what kind of question is that?
Who asked that question?
You know who asked it. You know who asked that question.
Coded.
He's got spare ribs on the brain.
I'm going to have to figure out.
If Mayfield were a rack of barbecue spare ribs, should we eat him? And if so, what kind of sides?
Yeah, that act grew so old and stale so quickly. You know, and you know, it'll tell you everything you need to know. You know, how few live viewers we have for the program because the Brown season is over. Northeast Ohio has to wake up. You got to wake up that the Cavaliers have a young team that's worth cheering on, and they're playing the game right. For God's sakes, cheer them on. Encourage them to do the non-Kyrie Irving selfish prima donna thing. Not to be like Stephanie A. Smith and so smothered in self.
If I could just get a word in edgewise. I have some very strong opinions I would like to express.
Okay.
Keep talking. I'll express them as they come to me.
All right, Stephanie. That's your thoughtful pose, isn't it?
This is what I do when I'm listening. Now, when I'm talking, there's other motions that I make. But right
Do
now,
some
I'm
of the
listening.
motions. Do some of the motions when you're talking.
All right. Well, let me tell you something about these Cavs. You're right. They're a young team. They're out there. They're hustling. And I think that the heart that they have carries them farther than their experience does at this moment. I think that's why they're doing so well. Better than anybody expected them to do.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. It means so much to me. To put it in perspective for the Cavaliers, you look overall at what this team has accomplished, and they're scoring in their wins 117 points a game, but in their losses 93.4 points per game. And this is the sign of a young team. They can play well and can be a little Jekyll and Hyde-ish. You know, their field goal percentage has been pretty damn good from the field. 47 in January, 45%, 47 in December, 45 in January. But in all of their wins, they're shooting 49.4% versus their losses, 41.6. And I wanted to point out that the worst shooting that this team has come up with is against the New York Knicks. The Knicks were only shooting 40.7% in 2 games. We have not played well, and only 27% from behind the arc. And look at what's next. Milwaukee. And we've only played them once, but we only shot 41% from the floor. When you start looking at who we're not shooting as well against, versus, you know, and again, we against Boston, only 40%. You know, so we're shooting really well against Brooklyn, who can't play defense, Charlotte, who obviously can't play defense, against Detroit. I don't know what they're doing out there. And I thought Casey, their coach, what an odd thing to say. He said, the Cleveland Cavaliers, right, he goes, he was comparing his team to the Cavaliers. And he said, we're where they were a couple of years ago. He's basically saying we suck. And that's what the coach feels about his team. And he's quite right. Team is in the middle of some kind of a transition, and I'm not exactly sure what that transition is.
I'm afraid to ask in 2021. Oh boy. Look for the weird symbol on the locker room, boys.
As far as you know, the Cavaliers are trying to get more fans to be allowed to view these games. And that hurts some of the excitement amongst the fans too, because if they came in and paid their money to see the team live, they would see that this team was really working hard, and it might be something they consider doing again. But nobody much is allowed in. I don't even know how many people they're fitting into the Rock, I guess they're calling it now. Who knows? But I'm not very many people are seeing this team live, and I think there'd be more enthusiasm if it weren't for the pandemic. So that's what I know. The Browns are likely going to let Ogunjobi hit free agency. So we can talk all you want about who you want to draft, what you want to draft. I am more interested in how the Cavaliers players are going to develop as the season progresses. Their bodies get more beaten up. I want to see how these young players hold up. I want to see who steps up, who is hot today but cold tomorrow, and who's more consistent. I want to see Kevin Love come back to the team to see how in the hell he fits into all of this. And I also want to see if the Cavaliers are going to move Andre Drummond by the trade deadline. Because theoretically, Kevin Love is no longer anything but a stretch four. That's, and he was a down low kind of player in this, playing the center position. But man, centers have become so much quicker of foot and play out front. They can move around him. It's going to be really interesting to see how they utilize him. But I'll tell you, Drummond ain't no twinkle toes exactly. I mean, he's just huge. He's a monster, 280-pound guy, and he's got the ability to, when he puts out and tries, the ability to alter shots. But Jared Allen works harder than Andre Drummond does. That's just the fact. So
I do have to agree with you that I would like to see these young players and how it's going to play out in the future. See, I want to see that they don't have a short career or have a lot of injuries, like say a Greg Oden or somebody. Even though that young man, when he came out, he looked like he had about 40 years of experience.
When did he come out? I never heard about that, Stephanie.
Well, I don't want to start rumors or anything like that.
First we're transitioning, and now we're
exactly. Got to be careful. People picking the Cavaliers to win tonight. Yeah, I hope that's the case. And one thing that I can say, Amsterdam, about Kevin Love, he has been enthusiastic. He's cheering these young players on. He's got a great attitude, and he is going to accept whatever role Bickerstaff gives him when it's time for him to come back. Because
that cocaine is a hell of a drug.
He is playing with guys who do want to win. There's no question that the team wants to win. And it's not just a forgotten kind of thing. So he's played, and God only knows Love was buried in Minnesota for teams just really weren't about winning whatsoever. So, now we find this out, all right, shifting gears just around the general sports world. Now Ben Roethlisberger is saying, I'll work with the team on that $41.2 million salary cap hit. I'll do whatever it takes to play one more season. And I told you, old Pigpen couldn't quit getting hammered by the Cleveland Browns. There was no fucking way. And sure enough, he wants to play one more year. They all want one fight more. And they don't have anybody who is going to come off the bench to play the quarterback position. Dwayne Haskins is the new, Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph has a nickname for Dwayne Haskins. I just can't repeat it here. I don't like the Steelers. But you do, Stephanie. You like the Steelers.
Well, is that team that has that coach that looks like that other actor fella that used to be on ER? If so, I do like the Steelers very much. Omar Epps. Is it Omar Epps? Omar Epps!
I think they all look alike, Stephanie.
Talking about right here. That was completely out of line.
Well, that's a white liberal for you. All black people look alike.
God. But yeah, it's funny because Roethlisberger now is going to, what's he going to prove in 1 year? There's going to be this great turnaround for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Maybe he sees Tom Brady giving it one last go and he thinks he can have one more remarkable run left in his career. I don't know. Not with that football team, the way that it's structured and organized right now. But I thought it was interesting that he's holding on by the hair of his chinny chin chin. That's then there's the fact that Eric Bieniemy has been, and I know Stephanie probably has something to say about this, been bypassed again as a head coach. And Andy Reid, his coach, said he's disappointed. He's happy to have him back as an offensive coordinator. Andy Reid also said that his shoes have never been shinier after games. And I don't know what he meant by that, but he was kind of like, tying those things together. Eric
And then he went
Bieniemy.
into this whole thing about ball washing, and everybody got lost.
Yep.
All I know is I have some very strong opinions about this, and I feel like if the mayor's resume is strong, then why not give him that head coach position? What is the problem here? None of the other coaches that they've hired measure up to his resume.
You know, I got to say this. Did you see the Lions' new? Is he the Lions' new head coach? What's the guy's name? Or is that Campbell? Who's the guy?
That's Campbell.
Who is the guy? Oh my goodness!
Houston just hired the Ravens assistant head coach.
No, the Eagles' new coach. That's who I'm thinking of. Is it Sirianni or some such name? I don't know if you saw his introductory press conference. If you thought it was impossible to beat Dan Campbell, this guy is like a stumbling, bumbling, unprepared guy. I mean, if he were talking about preparing a team, he came thoroughly unprepared for this presser, and he's just tripping over his words. What's the name of the coach here? Who is the Eagles' new coach? I want to see if I can find this online and just play this, because this was just, I should have put this up.
Nick Sirianni. Is it Nick Sirianni?
Nick Sirianni. I mean, he put on quite a show. Let's just put it that way. And I don't have much of what he said, but let's see if I can find this and put it up. He looked like somebody whose picture should be on a poster at the post office. All right, here we go. We're going to try this and see if we can do this. This sharing thing is always interesting. All right. There we go. Let's share the screen. And now we go to the tab. And we're going to share this. And we're going to blow him up like this. And let's.
First of all, I'd just like to thank Mr. Lurie for believing in me to be in charge of this unbelievable football team and this unbelievable organization in this great city. The fans, right? I can't wait. I know from experience. I know from experience of coming here and playing here as an opposing coach how passionate, how passionate that the fans are here in Philadelphia, and I'm just glad we're on the same team now. You're on my side now. Thank you to Howie Roseman. I can't wait to work side by
sounds like
side
the
with
Academy
you
Awards
in efforts to bring another championship back to the city of Philadelphia. It's been a great working with you so far, and look forward to continuing that relationship. Thank you to Don Slowinski, all right, and the rest of the people around this organization. It was very apparent to me right from the beginning, like Mr. Lurie said, with the interview process, of how great the people are in this organization. It's a special group of people. And you can feel that right away. So just can't wait to start working with all of them. Thank you to the Indianapolis Colts. Thank you to the Irsay family. Thank you to Chris Ballard. And then most importantly, thank you to my friend, my mentor, and like my big brother, Frank Reich.
Do make it stop. He gets into the nuts and bolts up there, and it was so hysterically funny. He's tripping over his words. He was.
I'm trying to think of the country. Was that Merle Haggard that did the stuttering?
No, Mel Tillis.
Tillis.
I expect him to start.
That's who it fucking reminded me of.
Yeah.
Or
And that's what the whole thing was, especially when the press started asking him questions. And
in fact, you should get that. You should download it and then splice in a bunch of Porky Pig fucking lines.
I mean,
That would be great.
It's really true. I mean, he's like consulting his notes. I mean, he has nothing up in his head. And I cannot imagine that he could have possibly presented in a meeting with the front office of Philadelphia better than Eric Bieniemy. I refuse to admit that. This guy, I mean, were you impressed? Was anybody impressed? Stephanie?
I was not. I have to say I was not. I said not impressed by this guy's presentation. I mean, if he had some very strong opinions, then he should have found a way to express them more effectively than what we saw there. That was a sad display. Sad display.
Thank you. And yeah, the Evelyn Woods sped ridden course. That's exactly right. I mean, but when I watch that, it's like, I guess I'd be pissed off if I were Eric Bieniemy too. My God. I have a question for you, Stephanie. Do you think that Eric Bieniemy is like hot?
Well, I'm going to have to look up his picture right quick, and I will let you know.
That's an Eric Bieniemy.
Do I think he has on a red shirt in this picture I'm looking at? So, you know, he looks hot in the sense of he looks like he might be on fire or something, but that's my opinion about that.
Do you think that he's attractive?
Do I think that he's an attractive man? I think that man has potential.
He has potential.
All right. So really, so you could see yourself sleeping with Bieniemy.
See, now you made me laugh.
God, you sounded different when you laughed.
That was not supposed to happen.
Oh no. Yeah.
I'll tell you something. When I saw that guy up there talking to all the reporters in Philadelphia, I said, that guy had electroshock therapy or something. There's something wrong with this guy.
Don't make me do Dwayne Stats, please. That hurts your throat to do, Dwayne Stats. That's like.
If you want to talk about a throat ache, I've had one all day.
That I believe. The worst part of it, I've been listening to this all day.
And all night.
So at any rate, I have bad news. John Chaney, who is the coach for Temple, passed away at 89 years of age. He was the big proponent of the zone defense in college basketball and was one hell of a head coach. And an example of a fine African-American college coach in the era of John Thompson and some of the great years of basketball in the 1980s. John Chaney was a one-of-a-kind guy, passed away at 89 years of age. And you haven't really heard much about Temple basketball since he left the program all those decades ago. So,
Wasn't he also at St. John's?
John Chaney at St. John's? Who is the St. John's coach?
The one that said, they were sending in their goon to hurt our players. So next time we play them, I'm going to send in a goon. I don't like to send in a goon, but if I have to send in a goon, I'm going to make sure that they feel it's intact.
No, no, he didn't. The guy I remember is Louis Carnesecca, who is the legendary coach from St. John's. I want to see something. I'm also trying to pull up something else here, my pants, here online. But this is the ESPN site is locking up on me. I want to see if there was more video of Nick Sirianni when he got bombarded with questions about Carson Wentz. It didn't exactly.
Oh, Jesus.
That didn't exactly. I kind of went over like a fart in a spacesuit. Uh, at any rate, I'm not.
I'm
seeing
sure
any-
he was asking, "Hey, can you guys Israeli send me one of those iron domes to help me with this air defense?"
Yeah, what I'm trying to figure out here is if this is going to come up on the screen or whether they've yanked the video down on this because his performance was. Oh, here he is. Check this guy out, man. Does this guy look like he is really prepared? We're going to have more fun. I enjoy having fun at people's expenses. We're going to share this wonderful screen with you again. This time it's Nick Sirianni on the future of Carson Wentz with the Philadelphia Eagles. And you see that on your screen? Here we go. You ready?
You said that you have two top-notch quarterbacks in Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts. So does that mean that there will be an open competition at quarterback if they both return?
Again, that's something that we have to look and evaluate. And I'm not ready to say that either way yet. We're just evaluating our players, evaluating every position, and every position, right? We don't know any of these guys really yet from what we've seen on tape so far because we haven't watched any. So every position that is going to be evaluated and every position is going to be, open, I guess to say, and we can't wait to start watching the tape and seeing what our players can do.
You know what it reminds me of is my cousin Vinny. I don't know if you remember the movie, The Stuttering Attorney. In that movie, it's just too damn funny. Too damn funny.
The guy that Joe Pesci replaces.
Well, no, the guy not Ralph Macchio, but his friend decides to go with the local prosecutor. The local prosecutor is fine when he talks to him, but once he gets into the courtroom to speak, he has a horrible stutter. It's just one of the great moments of the movie. That's what this guy reminds me of. He's like, we haven't really watched any film. Well, we haven't watched anything. I'm just
My hope is that
I'm just happy to be here.
that he will soon watch the tapes and that they will do some evaluation. That is my hope for him.
well, thank you for that.
Well, you are a Philly girl.
I guess she's just not responding to you when she goes into that Vogue pose. Whatever.
Right now, I'm just listening. I'm just taking it all in. Now, when I have some strong opinions to express, you can best believe I will express.
And I'll end the program on this, which is unbelievable. An unknown bettor has placed $2.3 million wager on the Super Bowl, and he's put it on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to cover. To put it in perspective, if he wins this bet, he would win a net $2 million. If you have $2.3 million to put on a game, there's just something wrong. There's something wrong with you, and there's something wrong with, and I guarantee you, he's one of these fucking hedge fund trader guys. Nobody would have such disregard for money, and it's so funny now see them getting wounded, by all this stuff that's going on with Robinhood. If you're not following all of that nonsense, there's nothing quite like shutting down people's accounts and preventing them from investing in stocks that are going up, but allowing hedge funds to continue on and make all the money. This is what we're living in today. A $2.3 million bet on a goddamn football game. You got to be kidding me. That's just over the top. And this is not from a socialized perspective like socialism. It's just when money has that little meaning to somebody that they could piss $2.3 million away, because I'll tell you something. I think the Chiefs are going to win. And it's not going to be anything about Tom Brady versus, Patrick Mahomes. I just think there's too much team speed on Kansas City, and there isn't enough on the Buccaneers. I believe that the Chiefs' speed is just going to make all the difference in the world in this game. They're going to be able to put a little bit of pressure on Brady, but more than anything, the coverage downfield will get in the passing lanes a little bit more frequently. And I think from an offensive perspective, Kansas City is just going to be able to pick away and stretch that Tampa defense. So that's kind of how I see it. So I'm automatically now I'm rooting for the Chiefs so the guy loses his money, because that's kind of what it should be. All right, I'm done. I've given you a full hour, and
The last thing that I have to say is that I'm bulletproof, nothing to lose. Fire away, fire away. Good show.
thank you, Stephanie. We look forward to you hearing again on the program sometime in the very distant future. Thanks for showing up today on Moohead Radio, everybody. We're gonna be
L'chaim.
in L'chaim, yeah. So we'll be back. You got to say it like L'chaim. You got to pretend that you're Larry King with a ventilator in his throat. Good. That's exactly right. Yeah, but Cicely Tyson passed away too. We're getting hit.
And Cloris Leachman.
And Cloris
A bunch of
Leachman.
them in their 90s are dropping over.
Yeah, their time has come. Let me do this. I'm going to say one thing.
Jimmy Rogers, the singer.
Yeah.
It's always a sad thing when someone so young dies.
All right, I'm going to say Frau Blucher. Thank you.
Bertie Burke.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again Monday to talk more sports. And, I'm not going to get all involved in this in between the weeks for the Super Bowl, waiting for that to come up. I'll be watching the Cavaliers in just about a half an hour, and we'll be talking more about the Cavs and about some of the things the Browns might need to do to shore up their roster, besides this nonsense about trading for a quarterback. Thanks for
And
tuning
spring
in.
training is right around the corner, kids.
That's true, and I won't be talking about that. But I will see you on Monday, and that's a promise. Until then, hasta la vista, Patrick Heads. Good night.